Hi everybody, and welcome to Network Minds. In this episode, let's try this again. Hello everybody, and welcome to Network Minds. In this episode, we're going to go ahead and install another virtual machine. This time Linux, and it's the distribution will be Debian version 7, 64-bit. In the last episode, we went ahead and set up a virtual machine base, and now we're going to go ahead and turn on the virtual machine and install the operating system. So go ahead and start by turning. You'll see VMware starts up here. This is equivalent to a BIOS. Okay, so we have our first screen. I'm going to actually put this full screen so we can see it better. Okay, for our first screen, we have like a splash screen come up, and we can choose how we want to install it. If you need some help installing it, you can also click the help button here. I'm just going to go ahead with let's go with just a regular install. Maybe if everybody asks, I could do a graphical install like this because it's first on the list. So it boots up and it chooses and asks me what language I want. Just so you can see here, maybe I'll zoom in a little bit because I only use my arrow keys. But I'm just using my arrow keys to travel the menus. So here we've got English. I pick that, and it says what country you're from. I go up and choose Canada. And okay, your key map, that's for my keyboard language to use. We'll call that American English. And now it's going to go ahead and install the components in the kernel and things that it needs to run a base operating system so that it can install itself. Sounds a lot complicated, but when you're just doing it, really, I'm just sitting here picking options and letting it run. Here you can see it's trying to auto-configure IPv6, which is IP version 6. Basically the network it's trying to configure. So it's asking me for a host name. Let's call this one NM Debian base. No, that's too big. So NM Debian. Domain name, mcginnet.net. Root password, I won't tell you. Okay, so now it wants to ask for a full name of the user. Let's go ahead and type in my name. Username for the account, bytes a bit. And password for the new user. In the K, now it's going to ask for time zone. We'll go ahead and choose Atlantic. For an installation, you can get technical, and I will have a video on partition management, partition setup, and what they are, why you're doing what you're doing. As for now, let's just use the entire disk. And you can see here it's created the VMware virtuals disks, and that's the one we're going to choose. We have 215 gigs of space. Partitioning scheme. You can put, like, say, things that you store on a separate drive or on a separate, basically a folder that is a separate drive. In this case here, though, all files are going to go on the same partition because we're just going to try and keep this simple. So finish partitioning and write changes to disk, and it's just giving me a partition overview, how it's going to set up my hard drive. Read down it. The partition tables of the following devices are changed, and so it's basically telling me this hard drive is what we're affecting. The following partitions are going to be formatted. So on this hard drive, we've made these partitions are going to be used, and we're going to format them. You'll see where it says partition number 1 of SCSI3 and then 0, 0, 0 SDA. Well, SDA is worth noting because on the file system, that's how you'll find your hard drive. And as ext4 is extended system 4, which is a file system format. Basically how it indexes the files and things and accesses them. The bottom line right underneath that, partition number 5, is swap, which is basically the exact same thing as your memory file in Microsoft operating systems. A page file, I guess is what they call it. So we'll go ahead and write changes to disk and say yes. And you can see now it's creating the file system and now dumping files. Okay, so with the base system installed, it's now looking for more media and saying, hey, where's the next disk? And I'm just going to say no, don't bother looking for another disk because we don't have one, we only downloaded one. And okay, it's saying, all right then, do you want me to use a network mirror, which means there's a bunch of networks out in the files, and they're the exact same files that get copied between servers. And then at that point, you can download directly off those mirrors for the updates instead of using the CDs. And that's why I only use the first disk, because at this point, I'm going to say yes. And now it's going to give me all the current updated files instead of using whatever happened to be on the CDs. So I'm choosing my country that I want to mirror in, which is Canada. And the closest mirror to me, based on, you can read into here like dal.ca is Dalhousie University. So let's go ahead, but I think F3 NRC is closer. And it doesn't matter, it's in Canada. Let's just pick it. And for proxy, I have none, so I'm going ahead. apt is the actual application manager software. We'll use that a lot, and I'll show you the command line of that and the user interface on that. There's two ways of using things in Linux. The easiest for me is with command line, but there's a lot of user interface stuff that you can do to make things a little easier in perspective. So anyway, while app gets set up and downloads all the files, basically doing updates, I'm going to pause it and let that all finish. Okay, so now that it's done downloading all the packages, we're going to, it's asked me here if I want to join the popularity contest, and that's basically just letting it know, basically, hey, when you use our software, report back when it gets errors and stuff like that. Allows them to fix those problems and know what things to work on that people are getting the most errors of, etc. Especially where there's a test box, we're going to want to say yes to this. And select and install software. In here, we can choose our packages. Basically, these are our interfaces, our graphical interfaces. Also, it's been a long time since I've been using Linux, so you're going to have to not mind my rustiness. Anyways, GNOME is and KDE are like the main pretty interfaces from what I remember, but GNOME is a lot lighter. XFCE is a very light interface. Go ahead with KDE for now, just because I've seen a new version of KDE out. It looks interesting and I want to take a look at it. Though GNOME is a lot of fun with Debian, so we could maybe put both of them in. Let's put them both in and I'll show you how to switch between. Also, we're going to want an SSH server, and anybody doesn't know what that is, let's just go ahead and click that on, and we will, you know what? No, let's install it after once everything's installed. The same as GNOME. Let's install everything later. We'll just, right now, we'll start with a base. Okay, so now the group, everything's installed, and it's prompting for the bootloader, and basically that's the menu system when it first starts up. So we'll go ahead and say yes to that. Your device bootloader installation. So we'll just choose, remember SDA earlier, so that's the one we're going to choose. And that's where we want to boot it off of. Now I'll just finish up the installation and tell me to get anything I have in the CD-ROM drive out. So that's it, and now we're just going to go ahead and start Linux for the first time. Go ahead and put our username in and the password. And now it's installed.